Hello teachers, and welcome to Give Me 5 Book 1 Unit 4. This is our MiniTUT for Lesson 1, and that means vocabulary. Here are the 2 pages as a reminder, and at the bottom of that page, of course, is our vocabulary for this particular lesson. Now, there is something that you really need to be aware of. Of course, the kids need to be able to say those words, speak them properly, as well as commit them to memory. Okay, this is, after all, Book 1. Our kids are having to learn and memorize vocabulary. But the important part as well with this is that our kids are needing to be aware that this is singular and plural. And if you as the teacher are not aware of this, you're going to confuse your kids. If the kids are confused, it makes them so much harder to teach later on. So, whenever you have an opportunity, it is really important for you to reinforce the idea of how the nouns work in order for kids to be able to substitute them properly in grammar patterns, okay, in sentence patterns. So, if you haven't seen this before, it's just a reminder, and that is your 3 pieces of toast. What you're going to do is you're going to draw 3 pieces of toast on the board, and then you're going to draw this one. Then you're going to ask your kids, all right, boys and girls, what do you see? And they might say egg. Of course, that's incorrect. This is an egg. So you really reinforce, you really push into their minds that an egg, this is one. It's one egg on a piece of toast, and it's an egg. Then what you're going to do is you're going to draw this one over here, and then you're going to ask your kids again, all right, boys and girls, what do you see? And some of them might say, teacher, 3 eggs, which is correct. Okay, it is 3 eggs, or you could just have eggs. Both are correct. So that is now eggs on toast. That is an egg on toast. Finally, you're going to then draw this one over here, and then you're going to encourage your kids to then shout out the answer. So if this is an egg, if this is eggs, of course, this would then be egg on toast. Now, you might have some really advanced students. They might say, teacher, a scrambled egg on toast. They're not wrong. But the fact remains is that you as a teacher are trying to impress, trying to really reinforce the idea that un is equal to 1, s is equal to 2, 3, or more, and no un and no s is just the stuff that it is made of. This is egg, okay? If you'd like to see singular and plural being taught more, please check out my video with the magic blender to teach kids on how singular and plural and countable and non-countable work together. Okay, so please check out that video if you're still not clear on this. Anyway, once you've done your 3 pieces of toast, you can stick it up in the top right-hand corner, and just to keep it as a memory for the kids. And now we just jump straight into our vocabulary. Now, the vocabulary that I'm going to write down is the vocabulary in the book, right? I'm not going to take any of the root words. I'm simply going to copy the words that are in the book, and I'm throwing them up on the chalkboard. So I'm going to throw them up there, and I'm going to say, all right, boys and girls, follow me. E-G-G-S, and the kids will shout out, eggs, good job. This one, boys and girls, and maybe you can encourage the kids to read the words without much of a prompt. Depending on their level and depending on their mood and energy, you can present it that way. So once you've got the first 5 words on the board, then what you're going to do is you're going to ask one team to read it out, give them some points. Then you'll ask the next team to read it out, give them some points, and so on, right? You've got those 5 words out. The kids are pretty good at it. Then you do the next 5 words. And then, of course, you can ask one team to do, let's just say, for example, the 6, and then you give them points. Good job, team. You get the next team to do those ones. Good job, team, etc., etc., okay? And just go over, reinforce those words that are more tricky than other ones. And so that way you just keep the interest up for everybody. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. If you're satisfied with the way that the kids can pronounce the words, if you're satisfied that they're able to memorize and able to spell some of those words really well, and maybe you can erase a word and whatever, ask them to repeat it back to you, now you can move on to the next step. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our magic toast, our 3 pieces of toast, and we're going to draw the picture and we're going to categorize. Now, It's a pretty simple way of categorizing, but what we're doing is we are really reinforcing the singular and plural and the countable and non-countable. So I'm going to ask my kids, all right, boys and girls, we're going to start with this one over here. Can anybody tell me which word will fit into this column? Now the kids will have remembered that this is now eggs, this is an egg, and this is just egg, right? So, boys and girls, eggs. Is it column number 1, column number 2, or column number 3? Now hopefully all of the kids by now are going to shout out, teacher, number 3. Good job, so eggs. All right, boys and girls, I'm going to take this one, chips. Is it 1, 2, or 3? Teacher, so easy, don't be silly. It's column number 3, yes, chips. Now it is pretty obvious, right? However, we need to establish the structure so that our kids will then have no problems later on. All right, boys and girls, now what's the next one? Where can we put ice cream? Is it column number 1, number 2, number 3? Teacher, it's number 2. Good job. And then the teacher will write down ice cream. Now you can ask a student, why not? Ask the students to then say, all right, Jimmy, fruit. And then Jimmy comes along and Jimmy writes down fruit. All right, Sally, meat. And then Sally will come and write down meat. All right, Bob, write down fish. And then Bob writes down fish. Now, Bob is obviously copying it off the board. Sally is checking it out. But that's not the point. The point is we want the kids to be able to practice their writing. We want them to be able to actually really understand that these non-countable, let's just say nouns, will fit in the second column. Okay, now once you've got all of the words on the board, it would look something like this. Now, as I said before, it's really important to teach more than less. So what you're going to do is you're now going to then say to the kids, all right, boys and girls, ice cream. I want 1 ice cream. Can I have ice cream? And some of the kids are going to go, good grief. So if this is ice cream, if this is ice creams, which is wrong, but I want to have an ice cream. Can I have that? Can I have an ice cream? And then of course the teacher's going to say, no, boys and girls, you cannot have an ice cream. You have to have an ice cream cone and ice cream cones. Now the kids are going to go, huh? Teacher, what do you mean? That's so weird. How come you've got extra words to describe an ice cream? What's going on? And so what you're going to do as a teacher is you're going to then say, boys and girls, this is what an ice cream cone looks like. Looks like a microphone. Okay, an ice cream cone, and this one over here is ice cream cones. Okay. Now what your kids are going to be doing is they're actually going to be taking a look at this and in their own minds, they're going to be understanding that, okay, singular needs an, plural needs s, and it's the cone part that is singularized or pluralized. It's the ice cream that stays the same. Now you're going to allow your kids a couple of minutes for that to sink in. It's like, huh? That's so weird. Because you're then going to give them a second example. And now we're going to move on to, for example, chicken. So I'm going to then ask my kids, all right, boys and girls, if it's an ice cream cone, what is chicken? Now, some of them might be thinking, well, if it's an ice cream cone and ice cream cones, maybe it's a chicken cone. And this would be a chicken cones. And then, of course, you as a teacher are going to say, ha ha ha, don't be silly. It is just chicken and chickens. And the kids are going to go, huh? What's going on here? Now, this is the key point. You're now going to draw the picture of a chicken. Here, boys and girls, is a chicken. And the kids are going to go, what, teacher, what's going on here? And here is chickens. Now, they're not silly, they're not completely silly, and so they'll understand that this is now singular and plural, and they have seen a chicken before, and they have seen chickens before, but the key point is they are starting to learn where the article goes in order to make it singular and plural. Now, that might throw them off a little bit. Okay, well, a chicken, chickens. Now, you as a teacher are going to say, boys and girls, let's take a look at the word meat. Now, the kids are thinking, oh, goodness me, meat. Is it a meat like a chicken and meats like chickens? Or is it a meat cone and meat cones? So you're going to say, boys and girls, who wants to guess? And so the kids are going to go, oh, teacher, I don't know. Now it's going to be a piece of meat. And what you're going to do is you're going to draw a piece of meat. And you could even draw a piece of meat on a plate. So here's your plate, and you're going to draw a piece of meat. Now, since your kids are armed, they've got a little bit of knowledge. Now what you're going to ask them is, boys and girls, a piece of meat, how about this one? And what your kids are going to start to do is, I wonder. I have to kill a, so there's no over here. And then you allow your kids to guess. Teacher, is it pieces of meat? And then you go, bingo! Good job, everybody. It's a piece of meat and pieces of meat. An ice cream cone, ice cream cones. And so there starts to be a logic that starts to develop with your kids. Okay. Then the next would be fish, which you could totally do. You could have a piece of fish, pieces of fish, no problem. A piece of meat, pieces of meat, yep, there we go. The next one could be a piece of fish and pieces of fish, that is no problem. However, if you wanted to then teach this one over here, that would be totally permissible too, because both are correct. And that is, here we go, boys and girls, look at me. Fish, okay, fishes, that's no problem. There we go. And of course, fishes would then be different kinds of fish. So that's a tricky one, but okay, it's totally permissible in this instance. Then you want to do the next one, which then would then be a piece of cake or pieces of cake, that's fine. Or you could do a cake, but then of course you need to then draw the picture of a cake. Here is a cake, a birthday cake, and here are cakes, many, many birthday cakes. But you could do peace as well, that's no problem. And then you could do, and then you'd have to do a grain of rice, a piece of fruit, a bowl of salad, okay? So the idea, of course, is for the kids to then start to understand, okay, some words have exceptions, and that is all they need to know. That all they need to know is some words have exceptions. They don't need to learn the exceptions at this stage because of the way Book 1, Unit 4 is structured. All they need to do is substitute those words into the grammar pattern. So all I'm saying for you as the teacher is help them understand that there are exceptions, but you don't need to teach it right now. But you certainly do need to show them. Okay, so once you've showed them what those exceptions are, leave it on the board, that's no problem. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move on into our next activity, and that activity will then be a simple listening activity. But this listening activity is pretty cool. Why? Because you killed two birds with one stone. Right, get out a piece of paper, say to the kids, all right, boys and girls, here's a piece of paper, write down 1 to 10, write your name and write your table. Now you could do it as a team game, or you could do it as a small group or individuals, up to you. But what you're doing is you're helping your kids develop their listening awareness, or you could call it their phoneme awareness or listening awareness. Now the reason why you want to do the phoneme awareness or the listening awareness is because if they're listening correctly, it means that they understand the concept. If they're listening incorrectly, it means that they couldn't care less if it was cake or cakes, fish or fishes, chicken, a chicken or chickens. So that is the reason why you do a listening thing. Now the cool part about this is why? They're also practicing their writing. So all they're going to do is basically copy it off the board. So the teacher will then shout out, all right, boys and girls, number 1, fish. And then, of course, what's going to happen is the kids are then going to write down fish. So, chickens. And the kids are then going to write down chickens for number 2. Right. Number 3, boys and girls, cakes. And the kids will have to be very careful on listening. Is it cakes, cake, or a cake? Okay, once they've written it all down, you will then collect it and then you will give them a score and say, good job, everybody's listening correctly, which means that they will then be able to understand and apply these nouns into the correct sentence patterns in their next lesson. Okay, so that is how I would do it for this particular lesson. So teachers, I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that you can apply that in your lesson, and do let me know how it goes in your lesson. Let me know if it was successful, let me know if it wasn't, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks very much and good luck.